Ladies and gentlemen, let's please welcome to the stage, from Australia and the Crow House and, of course, of the world, ladies and gentlemen, Max Igan.
Hey folks, I'm here. It takes a lot to get me here. It always seems to take a lot to get me here. So I can't see what's coming next up here, huh? No way to do that? That'll be interesting. Okay, it's going to be an interesting talk, folks. Let's see how we go. So welcome to the talk. I'm from thecrowhouse.com. Who's been there? Anybody been to the Crow House? Anybody hasn't? A few people don't know. It's a website that's got over 1,000 pages, folks. There's lots of stuff there. It's all free. There's no advertising. There's nothing to subscribe for. There's no subscriber section. Any of that stuff. It's just a portal of information you can share, lots of links to other things, a lot of information that you need. So which path to freedom? That's what I want to talk about today. That's a lot of what we get in these talks. You know, a lot of people come here with their ideas of how we can reach freedom. And there's all sorts of different concepts of what freedom is. But freedom's a kind of an elusive thing because it's something that we've never really experienced in the human condition, not anywhere that I can find in history anyway. And everybody has their idea of what it looks like, but nobody really knows what it looks like because we've never been free. That's better. How do we do that? But we've never really been free. So everybody's got their idea, and the problem is that people get focused on their ideas and they get very, very tunnel visioned about it, and they sort of compete with other people to try to get to the top of the pile and push their idea forward rather than sharing their ideas with people. I recently got attacked by someone who wanted to share an idea with me. I released a show on jungle medicines. I quite like jungle medicines. I found them to be very effective in my life, ayahuasca and things like this, rapé and kambo, things like this, because I spend a lot of time in the Amazon. I found these things to be highly beneficial, and someone's been doing research on the psychedelic CIA mind control thing, and they attacked me saying I'm supporting the CIA mind control program and all this stuff because they disagree with me on jungle medicines. That's a hell of a way to approach someone to say, excuse me, I've got some research you might be interested in that has a different view to use, and maybe we could share together and see if one of us is right. I think that would be a more constructive approach, so that's the way we should do it. So which path to freedom? A little bit of a reality check today. There's always that with my talks, folks. I like to put this slide in there because it's just the way I am. If I offend you, I'm very sorry, but sometimes I do that. That's just the way it is. But we are in for a reality check, folks. So a little bit of history of how we got here and where we're going. But like I said, this is which path to freedom. There's lots of choices that we've got, but we've got to learn how to bring it all together. And what we need to do is find the path with a heart. That's what we need. The path with a heart that joins us all together and allows us to respect each other and respect each other's ideas so we can find out what freedom is and what it does look like. This is what we're sort of doing at the moment. This is Western society. This doesn't really have much of a heart, I don't think, what we're doing to the world. That pretty well sums it up, I think. If you look at our involvement in other countries, we're kind of just milking them dry, and I don't think that has much of a heart. And with what we're doing with our children as well, that's supposed to be animated, but it's not working on the Mac for some reason. But we're feeding our children, we're letting the children be educated by the television, and children are very precious and very gentle. You know, I had a horrendous childhood, I really did. I had very, very traumatic experiences when I was very young. And one of the most traumatic experiences in my life that really affected me for a long time was something really, really simple. There was someone staying in our house. We had a friend of the family staying with us, a young girl, who'd been stealing cream from the refrigerator. My mother used to whip up cream all the time and keep it for desserts and stuff. And someone had been stealing the cream and eating it. And I got up and went to the toilet one night in the middle of the night, I was about 4 years old, and I caught this guest eating the cream, and I went, oh, wow, it's you that's eating the cream. I'm telling Mum, And I forgot all about it in the morning when I woke up, But when I got up in the morning, I was running to the toilet. When I was 4 years old, I was running to the toilet, and I had to squeeze between this person and my mother to get to the toilet, and she looked down at me and she said, oh, Mrs. Igan, I found your son stealing the cream last night. And my mother grabbed me and grabbed this belt from the wall and whipped me with it until I had welts all over me. And that was the first time I ever experienced pain. It was the first time I ever experienced treachery. It's the first time I ever experienced a lie. is the first time I ever saw anyone gain pleasure from that lie. And I had that as a nugget in my heart for probably 35 years of my life. Even now, I get a quaver in my voice thinking about it. Because in that moment, my entire innocence and my entire view of the world was completely shattered. And from that moment, I lived my whole childhood and my adolescent life wondering why my mother bothered to be friendly to the people in the shop, wondering anyone bothered to talk to anyone or be friendly. Why are you bothering with these people? They don't care about you. No one cares about anybody. No one cares. Why do you care what they do? Why do you talk to them? Why do you try to be their friends? Because they don't care about you. Nobody cares about anybody. That's how I felt because of that one thing. That one thing. That's the damage you can do to someone from one little act of treachery and one lie and one act of deception. How you can damage a child's life for 35, 40 years by doing something like that. It's a terrible thing. We've got to nurture the children, folks. And we don't do that. We do this. We sit down in front of the television and we get fed what we're fed. We get trained what to think and we just let the world do what it wants to do. We get programmed in what to think by our religious views. All of the division, everything that's designed to separate us, everything that's put there is designed to separate us. I really don't do religion at all. And for those who do religion, that's great. I respect you for it. That's fine. If you have this need to go through a third party to get to God, I don't particularly need to do that. I believe we all have a connection to the divine, and I believe that these things get in the way, and they say, no, my path, and fight with those guys. That's what it's about. It's all about separation and division. And meanwhile, the system goes marching ahead. And that's the world that we got, folks. And it's separation and division. Everybody trying to find a connection to something perfect, to find a connection to the Creator, find a connection to themselves, find the meaning of what this is all about. But it's all designed to divide and conquer the species. We've got to bring it all together, we really do. Because sometimes things aren't what they seem. Sometimes things just are not what they first look like. That picture's a great example. I've always liked that picture. Sometimes things are just not what they look like. Sometimes things are just illusionary. You've got to look a little deeper to see what's really going on. And that's what I want to do today. So everyone looks at the world. We've got a pretty messed up world. You look at the situation today, a little bit of run through modern history of how we got here, where we're going. This is pretty well what we're facing. We look at everything, and it's happening all around the world. It's happening in America. It's happening globally. It's happening in Europe. It's certainly happening in the United States to a great degree. All sorts of octopuses in the United States. The education system, everything. It's just, it's taking over everything. I wish I could see the next slide. But the octopuses are everywhere. The smart system, the electrical system. This is an insidious beast as well. I'm sure a lot of people have done a lot of research into what's really going on with the smart grid. I want to get into that a little bit later. But it's just another octopus. It's just another way of controlling us. So what do we do about it, folks? We have an election. An election. This is going to save everything. We get an election, and everyone thinks Hillary Clinton's going to win. Who thought Hillary Clinton was going to win the last election? I did. I completely thought she was pegged. Didn't matter what was going to happen, Hillary Clinton was going to win. And when Trump got in, I was quite pleased that Trump got in, because I thought this is anything but the norm. This shows that whatever it is, the people have had enough of Hillary Clinton. But how did they really do it? How could they pull that off and not let Hillary Clinton get in when it was so obvious that she should have? You know, like that's the way they had it planned anyway. And you've seen all the protests and all this stuff. It was a foregone conclusion that she was going to get in. Well, of course, this happened. Pizzagate. And Pizzagate provided what they needed. It provided a smokescreen to give a reason why Trump would be elected, to make it legitimise the Trump presidency. I really believe that's why it was released at the timing that it was. And Pizzagate's real. Pizzagate is real. There is this massive child trafficking network that is going on globally, and it's very, very real. But I really believe this was timed. It was absolutely timed to be released when it was, to give legitimacy to the Trump presidency, because everyone looked at Hillary Clinton after the revelations of the Podesta emails and they saw, well, this is what we're electing. This is not a good thing. This is not a good thing. It is the thing. Plus, there was her election campaign, which really didn't do her much good at all. And really, when you look at it, you get the choice of having this in the Oval Office And you go, well, I know the only other choice is this. And really, that's what you got. But when you elect this, what did you really get? Well, you just got another octopus. Really, that's what you got. And you know, I just don't trust Donald Trump. And I'm sure there's probably some Trump supporters here. I've tried to give Trump every benefit of the doubt. I really have. I said there are going to be a few things that reveal the Trump presidency very quickly. There's a few things he said during his election campaign, 9/11, your investigation into 9/11, all that sort of stuff. He said a few things. And honestly, I mean, Trump was in a unique position. He's a businessman with a lot of money behind him. He has no real political ties that, you know, he could step away from any political ties he's got, and he could actually stand up and call things and be a truther and do things right. There was an opportunity there for that to happen. But I just haven't seen it happening. I just haven't seen him doing this. People say, give it time. Well, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. I'm seeing this. I'm seeing things are just going on the way they've always been going on. And people have forgotten this. The government isn't your friend. The government isn't your friend. They may offer you a little help if you're in a tight spot, but it's not going to be the help you want. They just don't do the right thing by you. That's just the way it is, you know. Government is not your friend. And in the meantime, people have been fed all this stuff by the media. The media have played the Trump presidency. They played this election, and I really believe a lot of it has been theatre. It's just been the big divide and conquer strategy played again, the left-right paradigm. That's all it is. Trump is the struggling underdog trying to push things forward. No, he's not. No, he's not. It's just more Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. You know, when Trump bombed Syria the other day, what did everyone think of that? You think he did the right thing? He was blackmailed. That's what Benjamin Fuller Shitford said, eh? Not a problem. No worries. I suppose the ninjas will get him though, eh? The ninjas will get him. It's all good. Yeah, go Ben. Look, I think that Trump could call things for what they are. He really could. The world's run by criminals. The world's run by criminals. We've got a cacistocracy running the world, folks. These people are the worst people who you could possibly get for the job. Is anyone familiar with the word cacistocracy? Cacistocracy is an old word that was left out of the language. Cacistocracy is defined as governance by the worst elements of society who govern entirely in their own interests to the permanent detriment of all other classes. That's a word that used to be a real word. It was taken out of the dictionary about 100 years ago. They didn't want us to know that one. Cacistocracy, shit, rule by the shit people. That's what we got, folks. People say it's an oligarchy. It's an oligarchy to a sense, but it's a cacistocracy. People say it's a patriarchal society. Got to get rid of this patriarchal society. Bullshit. It's not patriarchal. That's paternal. There's nothing paternal about this society. You know, this society is run by psychopaths. It's a psychopathic society. It's a cacistocracy society. It's not a patriarchal society at all, or matriarchal. This is just designed to divide the sexes again. You know, separate the sexes, divide and conquer. That's what it's all about. There's nothing paternal about Hillary Clinton. There's nothing paternal about Madeleine Albright, Angela Merkel, Julia Gillard, all of these other people. You know, Maggie Thatcher, the Queen of England. There's nothing paternal about these people. This is not patriarchal, it's psychopathic. But this whole thing has been Hegelian dialectic, problem, reaction, solution. And this is really what you get. Because as Kissinger said, it's not a matter of what is true that counts, but a matter of what is perceived to be true. And that's what we got here, folks, with this whole Trump presidency. He's not addressing anything. He's not addressing the war on terror for what it is. Who's looked at the work of George Webb? Anyone looked at George Webb's research? Now, George Webb's done some great research. Bear in mind, George is a Jew, he's a Zionist. He openly admits he's a Zionist. He supports the state of Israel. And he doesn't tell you the whole picture, but he does do a lot of really good research. And he has done a lot to stop the finger pointing at his people, because there's a lot of unnecessary finger pointing at the Jewish people when there should be a lot of finger pointing at the government of Israel, but this is separate to the Jewish people. It's a whole different thing. This is such a convoluted issue, getting even into that question, because the people running the state of Israel aren't the real Jews anyway. I mean, we could get into this, you know, blah, 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 the Khazars, the synagogue of Satan is mentioned in the Bible, blah, blah, blah. But this is the war on terror. Why isn't Trump calling this what it is? The war on terror is a complete setup. There is no civil war in Syria. For him to even go in and do any missile strike, whether he's blackmailed or what, why isn't he just calling it out and saying, why should I be striking Syria over a gas attack, and why should I believe that Assad, on the eve of peace talks, when the United States government had just said that the Syrian people should be allowed to choose their own government, why would Assad launch a gas attack on that day and turn the whole world against him and cause me to go and do a missile strike? Why can't we say that what's actually happening in Syria is a covert invasion that was funded by the Clinton Foundation and DynCorp, and that ISIS is a private mercenary army funded by those two organisations and supplied by weapons by those organisations and by NATO and by Israel and by Saudi Arabia? Now, why doesn't Trump stand up and say that? What, because they're too big? Too big to arrest? Too big to fail? Bullshit. No one's too big to arrest. There is no fish that is too big to fry, especially when they've got the blood of millions on their hands. So that would be honesty. Why aren't we seeing any of that? You know, there's no reason to bomb Syria. Assad did not gas his people, and if he did, it's gas that he bought from Hillary Clinton, you know? But he didn't. He didn't do it. Of course he didn't do it. You'd have to have rocks in your head to do that, especially at that particular time, you know? Oh, who knows? Well, I don't believe anything the media tells me anyway. There's someone probably opened a can of baked beans and they videoed it, you know? Like, who frickin' knows anymore with these people? He hasn't really discussed this very much either. You know, if you want to stop the war on terror, investigate this. Because there is no war on terror, there's a war of terror, because war is terror. That's the way it is. You know, all the people in these foreign countries that have had bombs falling on them for the last 10 or 15 years since this happened are pretty terrified, I can guarantee it. But he hasn't addressed this. If you want to stop the war of terror, investigate 9/11, and you will find fingerprints of Israel and elements within the United States government and other governments all over it, and that will stop the war on terror. And then you can freeze all the assets of these organisations, such as the Clinton Foundation, such as DynCorp, such as NATO, and you can use all the money they've got to rebuild these nations that we've destroyed. That would stop the war of terror. I don't know, I'm a bit vague with the slideshow today, folks, but as I mentioned, you know, the work of George Webb and what DynCorp is doing. And if you can trace this back, if you look at George's work and you trace the work of the Clinton Foundation, you'll find that Yugoslavia, Kosovo, all of this is on the hands of Hillary Clinton. She created all of that, all of those people. The situation in Haiti, this is on the hands of Hillary Clinton. Why is this woman not in jail? Why has she not been arrested? You know, why is Trump got DynCorp execs and ex-CEOs working as his advisors? You know, what, keeping his enemies close? Bullshit. You know, this is not acceptable, folks. It's not acceptable. You know, the pedophilia goes rampant worldwide. We know it does. We know the people who are involved in it. The whole Jimmy Savile case, the Jerry Epstein situation, Lolita Express, what's going on in that island over there, which is still going on, or the brownstone operations. See, that's how they do it, folks, brownstone operations. Anyone here not familiar with brownstone operations? A brownstone operation is when you get someone into a situation and you compromise them. The way they generally do it is they will go into a country, they'll get an agent, go into a country, you've got $10,000, you've got to take over the country. How are you going to do it? You get to know the rich people, the politicians, you take them out, you wine and dine them, you get them drunk, you have dinner, you get a night with a couple of prostitutes. A couple of 20-year-old prostitutes, a couple of 19-year-old prostitutes, or maybe 18-year-old prostitutes. Maybe you get the next ones to be 16, the next ones to be 14. You do it in a hotel room which is set up with about 12 cameras. They set them up. CIA's got a package you can get. You set up these rooms with 12 cameras, get you from all angles, low-light cameras. You can't even tell they're there. And they get you having sex with a 14-year-old girl. Or better still, a 14-year-old boy. Wow. And then they've got you. And then they say, now what you've got to do, Mr. President, is you've got to get your top 8 ministers to come to a party one night. And we'll video them having sex with 14-year-old girls. Or 14-year-old boys. And then those ministers will get 8 people, you get the 8 heads of your police departments around the country, and you compromise them. And then those 8 heads of those police departments get the 8 heads of whatever other organisations, and they compromise them. And that's all you need is the heads of the organisations compromised, and you've got the whole organisation. You get the head of NATO compromised, you got NATO. You get the head of the Defence Department compromised, you got the entire US war machine at your disposal. They'll cook up whatever they want. And they go into a country, they'll look at, okay, there's oil here, there's resources here, there's resources here. Then they get a group like OTPOR, which is it prides itself on diffuse and disrupt and undermine and create conflict. That's what they do. What they did in Egypt, they sent OTPOR in there to create the Arab Spring, the big Arab uprising. This was just a group of people who found factions who were unhappy. Okay, let's have a protest. Big march in the street. Then members of OTPOR start shooting people in the crowd, blame it on the government. NATO has to step in, save the people. Country gets decimated, they get the resources. They created the army in Egypt, they sent them into Libya, overthrew Libya. Libya was a bank robbery. Hillary Clinton went into Libya, she stole 25,000 Stinger missiles. She sent them into Syria and gave them all to ISIS. They stole around about $20 billion in cash, in gold. And there's about $265 billion in hidden assets that Gaddafi had that they're gradually laundering through Europe, through companies, and this is the way they do it. The Clinton Foundation does all of this. And the first resource they get in any of these places, of course, is people. That's the way it is. But I don't trust Trump. I don't trust Trump because of his posturing and the stuff he's doing against Iran, against Russia. He was supposed to be friends with Russia, wasn't he? Yeah. And now he's bombing Assad, trying to, aggravate the situation. I don't trust him. I don't trust what he's doing at all. And this is what we've done. This is what we've done to all of these countries. And all of this is terrorism. All of this is terrorism because every single one of these conflicts was created, was manufactured, was based on false pretenses. As far as I'm concerned, anybody who died in Iraq, in Libya, in Yemen and in Syria, none of these people are casualties of war. They're murder victims. Every single one of them. Because all of these wars are false. None of them were necessary. None of these countries are a threat to the United States. None of them. None of these countries are a threat to anybody's freedom. None of them. They're really not. They're very, very progressive countries. And Gaddafi was interesting. Gaddafi said, if you take out Libya, within 5 years, Europe will be overrun with refugees. Europe will be overrun with migrants within 5 years. That's what he said. And if you want to know what's really going on in Europe, the whole Muslim crisis, it's not a Muslim crisis. These are Arabs. They're not Muslims. They're just Arabs. These guys are just riffraffs, scumbags, the scum of the earth. They're just Arabs, they're Egyptians, they're people from all over the place. They're not necessarily Muslims. Why is it when we see a group of dark-skinned people attack a woman, it's a group of Muslim rapists? How come when we see a group of white guys attack a woman, it's not a group of Christian rapists? What is that? How come there's this one particular people with dark skin that we identify as being a religious race, and yet we don't do that with anything else? You don't think that there's an agenda there to maybe vilify Muslims? Because most of the Muslims I know are pretty nice people, pretty nice people. And when you look at what we've done to these countries, you imagine growing up in one of these areas here, and then suddenly you grow up, you got a chip on both shoulders, you're pretty evenly balanced, And then you get sent into Europe and you've been fed all this Western porn all your life and you've watched your family get blown up and killed and raped by soldiers all around you. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you get in there? You got a chip on your shoulder. That's what they breed these people to do this. And it's all been planned. There was a paper that was put forth in 1928 by a man called Kalergi. Two people, Koldenhove and Kalergi, they put forth a plan called, just the Koldenhove-Kalergi plan, which calls for the mass genocide of the people of Europe via mass migration. 1928, a Jewish Koldenhove-Kalergi plan. You can Google that, or you can go to my website, thecrowhouse.com, and you can scroll down the homepage and you'll see a thing there that says essential reading, and there's a link to that plan. 1928, they planned what they're doing in Europe right then, and they're doing it right now. That's what's happening. But again, if we stop, look at this and say, well, these guys are just bad people. They're not necessarily Muslims. If they were Muslims, I would suggest they wouldn't be doing all this bad stuff because this will condemn them to, hell or whatever it is that they go to in the Muslim world. So, they're not going. None of these people are doing these things religiously based. These are just psychopaths. These are people that are bred to be psychopaths, and that's what they are. So we should stop really classing it as a religious thing because it's not. This whole thing is about whipping up the war between East and West so they can bring in the Chinese system. You should all like that. You like that? Very good work ethic in China. nicely regimented. Nice strong ties being built with China, I see. That's got to be nice and comforting for everybody, hey? So what they do, funding Israel is still doing that as well. So Israel can continue its genocide of the Palestinian people. This is going on all the time. So Trump is doing all of these things. We're not seeing any change, folks. The agenda's still going forward. It's still going ahead. Israel is actually the only country that's ever really committed a terrorist attack against the United States. So why are they being funded so much? This is the only country that's ever really openly attacked the United States. And if you don't understand your support for the state of Israel, that kind of sums it up. That's the American support for the state of Israel. But of course, they need the support because poor Tel Aviv here is having such a hard time from Gaza here, which is obviously a threat. I mean, yeah, there's a big difference in that country. And the Palestinian people, well, yeah, there's obviously no apartheid in the state of Israel, is there? Yeah, everything's just normal. And they help these people because these people, they have to be treated that way. Of course they do, because everybody who's born in Gaza is a terrorist, according to Benjamin Netanyahu. Even though when you look at Israel, you see that the Israeli children are trained how to use these guns and attack Palestinians and become soldiers at a very early age. Of course, we're told that this is what happens in Palestine, that all the Palestinian kids are trained to do this stuff, but they don't because they don't have these weapons. They have a few light armaments, and Hamas doesn't let the people have weapons anyway. Trust me, I know. I've been to Gaza. I've been in there. I've seen the situation in Gaza, and it's not anything like what people think it is. But Benjamin Netanyahu is still funding this, up to $38 billion now, I believe that's going on. But nobody really seems to care. Everybody's busy doing other things these days. Who's got a mobile phone with them? Yes, of course, everybody, naturally. But sometimes we do get away from our mobile phones. We play a few games. That's always good. Sometimes we even go outdoors these days. And everyone remembers outdoors, don't you? Of course you do. It is still there. Check it out. But while this is going on, folks, the system is still going ahead. Everything is still going ahead. And this is basically where we are at the moment, I think. It's where we're heading anyway, except for the little sky vehicles. The drones are coming. They're not quite here yet, but they're coming, But Trump hasn't really changed anything, folks. All he's doing is continuing the war posturing and continuing pushing things forward. The recent posturing against Iran, remember that when he said that deal that Obama gave to Iran, that great deal, he gave them all that money and all that nuclear appeasement and all that sort of stuff. I thought it was a good deal. I thought it was pretty good that he was trying to make some sort of amends with Iran, because Iran isn't a threat. Iran hasn't attacked another country in 270 years. The only war that they had was the war that the West pushed them into with Iraq, and they wouldn't even send missiles into Iraq during that war because missiles kill indiscriminately, and they thought that would be against the will of Allah. And they don't want atomic weapons, they don't want any of this stuff because they believe they kill indiscriminately and this is against the will of Allah. They think they should be banned. So, I don't have any problem with the Iranian people at all. I have a problem with the Iranian government because I have a problem with all government. I think all governments shouldn't be there, and the Iranian government is no exception, But there's strong Jewish and Christian populations in Iran that are quite happy to be there, that don't want to move back to Israel or anything like that. And when people look at Gaza and Palestine and think it's a den of Muslim extremists, Gaza and Palestine is 35% Christian, folks. So it's the Christians are being brutalised exactly the same as the Muslims in Gaza Strip and Palestine. It's very different to what everybody thinks. But that recent arms deal, that recent nuclear deal that Obama made with Iran, that was a good deal. And then there was suddenly that missile test that Iran did, and then suddenly Trump pulls the deal, ups the sanctions, and does all the posturing that he's doing against Iran. Now, that missile test that they did was actually quite legal. It isn't a missile that is able to carry any nuclear warheads. It's just a ballistic missile. There's no problem with it. But look at this in the Brookings Institute report, Which Path to Persia? And it says here, any military operation against Iran will likely be very unpopular around the world and require the proper international context, right? The best way to minimise international, whatever that word is, equilibrium, and maximise support, however grudging or covert, is to strike only when there is widespread conviction that the Iranians were given and then rejected a superb offer. One so good that only a regime determined to acquire nuclear weapons and acquire them for the wrong reasons would turn it down. Under those circumstances, the United States or Israel could portray its operations as taken in sorrow and not anger, at least in some of the international community would conclude the Iranians brought it on themselves. Does that sound familiar to you? You know, remember the PNAC report, 9/11, we need a new Pearl Harbor, the whole thing. It's just the same thing. And that's almost verbatim for Trump's speech when he condemned Iran for their missile test. So, and that happened quite quickly into the presidency. When Trump was elected, I said he's going to reveal himself very, very quickly. And he said a lot of good stuff during the election. He made a lot of promises. He mentioned 9/11, all this stuff about improving ties with Russia. All of these things he said, and he hasn't done any of it yet, folks. We've just seen the agenda go forward. And this is why the agenda goes forward, folks, because this is the first resource in war, is people. People. It happens on an industrial scale. And that's why. Your body, when you go into a country, you go into Iraq or you go into Syria, go into one of these countries, you send in these groups like ISIS or the White Hats or all these things. And a lot of the White Hats are good, a lot of them are doing good things, but then there's the people who work at night with the White Hats who come in after hours and do things that aren't so good. And what goes on in a lot of these war zones, when you go into a place, you've got to separate the people to keep them safe. You move the women and children over here, move the men over here. A lot of the men get taken and get used for slave labour. A lot of the women get sold into slavery or prostitution, and a lot of the kids are sold into slavery. They're sold into the sex trade or pedophilia, and a lot of them are harvested. That's the way it is. You go into a country, you separate the women and children, you put the women in prostitution, and you harvest the children. All the pedophiles. In Queensland, Australia, we identified, there's a guy who works in child services. He's actually working for the government. He's trying to do the right thing, and he's investigating child trafficking, but he can only get so far in the network before he gets stonewalled. And he's identified at least 20,000 children a year being smuggled into the state of Queensland, Australia. That's one state. Australia's got a population of about 26 million people. So how many children are being trafficked around the United States, around England, around Europe, around the rest of the world? There are 8 million children that go missing every year registered on the books in Western countries. 8 million. They get reported missing. But that doesn't even take into account the people that go missing from war zones. A lot of these kids are used in pedophilia. A lot of them are just raped and abused and beaten and fed to the dogs or whatever they do with them. It's terrible what happens, and it goes on an industrial scale. But a lot of the time, there's a lot of organ harvesting that goes on as well. So this is the whole thing. Our centre offers a wide range of transplants for all these things, and you look at the price of them. Your scalp's worth $600. Your teeth are worth, your skull with teeth is worth $1,200. Your shoulders are worth $500, folks. Your forearm's worth $350. Your small intestine, $2,500. Your liver, $157,000 for your liver. $262,000 for your kidneys in America, around about $15,000 if you're in Russia. Or 62,000 in Russia, around about 15,000 in the Middle East. But there's a lot of money there. But your bone marrow is worth $23,000 a gram. Each person, your human body is worth around about $43 million on the black market. And people ask, why does human trafficking go on? Why do we have these lifestyles that promote organ failure? We get fed all this food, everyone wants to replace their organs. How many hearts did David Rockefeller have before they gave him a bad one and he finally frickin' died? How many was that? Thank God they gave him a bad one, eh? God, Rockefeller lived, the oldest living Rockefeller lived to 101. No, you didn't. You had 6 different hearts, you frickin' liar. How many people died so you could live to 101? I reckon that cheats. It's like getting a new car every mile and saying I drove further than everybody else. It doesn't really work that way. But yeah, this is what your body's worth on the market. So that's why these wars go on, and that's why we can't stop them. And this is just going on all the time, folks. And what else is going on? The whole transhumanist agenda. Now, a few years ago, I released a film called Transformation where I spoke about it. I spoke about chemtrails, the way they're spraying nanotech everywhere, and the nanotech in all the food and all this sort of stuff that's going on. And I suggested that they're moving towards this transhumanist agenda, and they're modifying us genetically from the inside out through our food and through nanotech and spraying and all sorts of stuff. Almost everything I said in that film has actually turned out to be true. It's all been confirmed since I put that film out. And They're doing it through this as well, the whole AI control grid. Everything that they're bringing in, the whole smart grid, this is very, very dangerous what they're doing. Because we're getting to a situation now where virtually everything you do is monitored. And you might say, well, that's okay, I've got nothing to hide. I've got nothing to hide, I don't care about my text being monitored, I don't care about my digital money or whatever, it's all good. But when you've got a world that is run by a criminal catastocracy to the degree of psychopathy that we're seeing from these people, these are the ones who are monitoring you, folks. This is who controls the technology. So anybody out there who says, oh, I got nothing to hide, so therefore I've got nothing to fear, well, the people who are creating the technology have a lot to hide and a lot to fear. And that's why they're creating the technology, because they want to know whether you're onto them. And if they figure out you are onto them, then they can just switch you off. And that's anybody. If you have a problem with the government at all and you complain about anything at all, they can just switch off your chip. That's it. You haven't paid your bills, haven't paid your electricity bills, switch off your chip. Now you can't use your car, can't use your computer, can't open your car door, got no electricity, can't travel, can't do anything. And they can just put the prices up, jack them up, whatever they want, keep you totally enslaved to this digital control grid and this currency debt-based slavery system through this smart grid that they're creating. And that's the danger of it. That's the danger of having all of these things linked up together for your convenience. This is why I don't use credit cards. And I rarely use mobile phones. I get one to use here when I'm traveling, but I don't use any app on it. Nothing, no apps. Everything you do, oh, I get the app. No, thank you. I use it to make phone calls. That's all I use it for. We've got to really watch what this technology is doing, folks. Don't shop with credit cards. Go draw cash out of the bank and shop with cash. It's a little more inconvenient, but do it. Don't support these things that they're doing, It's a small step. It's a small step, but it's a step. They're bringing in supermarkets now that you can't use cash there. I went to one in Europe last year. I went and got all this stuff. Went to the counter. They said, "Oh, no, you got to use card." I said, "But I've got cash." And they said, "No, we don't accept cash." And I'm saying, "But I'm from Australia. I don't have a credit card." And they go, "Well, we don't accept cash." And I'm saying, "So you're telling me you're refusing to accept payment for this stuff that I've got here?" And she just looked at me and she went, "You know what? You can just take that stuff." And I said, "Really?" And she said, yeah, you can just take that and leave the store. I'll pay for that. I'm going, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." So I just left, I thought, gee, that worked well, But yeah, I mean, but they just don't use it. Don't use it. You go to the supermarket, you go to the supermarket now and it's all these machines and there's like one aisle where you can go and pay cash. I go there, I wait in line. No. They all come out, "Oh, come in." No, I don't use that. Sorry. I just don't. Even if you go to those machines, you'll find there's like 10 of them and there's one that accepts cash. Because they just don't want you using it, which is a great reason to use it. Because if they don't want you to do it, then you should do it. That's the way it is. Like when they say don't invest the Holocaust, yeah, you should, don't investigate the Holocaust. If they make a law against it, then you definitely should investigate it. A law against investigating it, really. Truth does not fear investigation. Truth is its own defence. It does not require legislation to back it up. So therefore, I will definitely be looking into that one. Yeah, but this whole control grid, folks, it's coming forward. Cortana and the Siri and all this on your computers? Siri listens to you all the time and Cortana listens to you all the time. All the time. I had a friend who bought a computer with Siri on a new Mac, and it's got Siri, the new Mac version of Cortana, and she thought, I'm not switching this thing on, don't want to know about it. And after she had it for a month, she was sitting there discussing with her boyfriend a trip they were going to make to South America. And a little text popped up on the screen from Siri, said, "I can help you with that if you just activate me." "What, you're listening anyway?" "But I've never activated." She just went, "Oh my God." So everything I've been saying here anyway is it's just listening all the time. So you install Windows 10, you install the new Mac operating systems, you've just installed a surveillance system in your home for the government. Thank you very much for coming. And you paid for it. Thank you for coming. Yeah, Linux. I'm going Linux. That's where I'll be going next. So yeah, this is the way it is, folks. We've got to step away from this because this is where it's going. That's what I said. It isn't a matter of the technology being bad. Technology is great. I love technology. It's a matter of who controls the technology and what they can do with the technology. you know, and you're an electromagnetic being. Everything you do is electromagnetic. Every experience you have is electromagnetic. Every feeling, every thought, everything, it's all electromagnetism. Now you touch something, you can feel it because of an electromagnetic signal that's sent to your brain. These can all be intercepted. All of them can be intercepted. They can put voices in your head, they can put visions in your brain, they can do this stuff, they do it. There was a couple of years ago, 5, 6 years ago even, there was a company in Japan that was doing it at the front of one of their stores. You'd walk past their store and you get a little voice in your head telling you to go in and buy shit. And people started complaining about it, saying, hey, you're interfering with my personal, you're getting right into my personal space with this voice as I walk through this little laser setup you've got here. And the company got in trouble with it and they had to remove it. But they can do it. There was a TED talk where a guy was demonstrating how he can pick out anybody into the crowd and he can put a voice into Anthony's right ear and no one else will hear it. And Anthony will think there's someone actually talking just outside his ear, little voices. They can do this stuff. They've got it. They've got the technology to do it. They can intercept any part, feelings, you know, all this sort of stuff. These microwave weapons that make you think you're getting hot and all this sort of stuff just by activating electromagnetism in your body. All this sort of stuff. So they've got the technology to do it, and that's where they're heading with it if we allow it. That's the thing. And that's who controls the technology. So I think we've got a problem with this stuff, folks. I really do. I think we should look a little deeper. Now, last year when I was here, I was talking about this, the transhumanist agenda, and how they want to get rid of parents. They don't really need parents anymore. What do we need parents for? But they're doing all this stuff to help you because we're having such fertilization problems. And people are having problems having babies and all this sort of stuff. So we'll just help them. We'll help the infertile males. Why are the males becoming infertile? Oh my God, we have to help them with stem cell technology, all this sort of stuff. Well, the males are becoming infertile because everything's wrapped in plastic and plastic pumps estrogen into the food. And there's a reason they wrap it all in plastic. You know, it's the way it is. There's a reason they do everything, folks. The GM foods, all the stuff, it's all designed to create population reduction. Not really population, you know, depopulation, as people say. It's not really population depopulation, it's population management, population reduction and management. They want to be able to control the amount of people on the planet. The best way to do that is to prevent people from breeding and get them to go and purchase their children or just create new children and put them into the workforce. You know, they're trying to do away with parents so they can create artificial sperm. And I spoke about this last year. And they also have these ectogenesis chambers, which is like an artificial womb. So all they really needed women for is to grow eggs. So you could create a situation where women are born just as to farm eggs from. And they'd be quite happy to be that way because they'd be trained to believe that's the way it would be. So that's what I was saying last year, that that's really the only reason they'd need women. But now we've got new technology where we don't need women. Now they're creating eggs as well. So now you've got an egg and a sperm cell created from stem cells so you can grow a new blank human with no genetic code from any of its predecessors or relations. You've got all the genetic codes of your parents, plus you've got all the waters of your parents. All the water of the memory and the emotional memory of your parents is all in the waters because water has memory. You've got all of this stuff in you, in your being. So now they can grow new blank humans. Of course, we're doing it. This breakthrough is a masterpiece in bioengineering. You know, we can create artificial human embryos without the need for sperm or an egg. Growing embryos would help researchers study the very early stage. So there's a reason for it. They just want to help researchers. It's all good science, you know. You want to know this stuff so we can help you. That's why we want to grow new blank humans, and that's why we're introducing all this GM food to create stability in the population. Now, any animals that they've tested with GM food become sterile after 3 generations. Any animals they've tested. So if you're eating GM food, your kids are going to have a really hard time having kids. And if they eat GM food, then their kids probably will not be able to have kids at all. That's where we're going. Okay, then they can just grow blank humans. They can grow them in their little farm, and Brave New World, here we are. Only Brave New World on steroids, even far, far worse than anything that Orwell put in his book. But see, they're doing it. It'll improve the chances of having a healthy baby. Isn't that great? Aren't we glad we've got science? Wonderful people, aren't they? But they're setting up these genetic environments to be able to do this. Now, I said this as well, that that's what they were doing. I said that in Transformation, that what's in the chemtrails will very likely be affected by the biological environment it enters into, and you'll find that the ruling parasites, they don't actually have all the vaccinations that we have. So they've got completely different genetic environments for all this stuff to act on. And this stuff, you'll find that the nanotech, they've done tests in the lab where they put nanotech into rats, and they've been able to get the nanotech to switch the genes of the rat on and off using microwaves, okay, radio waves. They can do that. Tested, it works. So what genetic environments are they setting up in people? What nanotech is operating in people? And with this smart grid is in place and we're all in this electromagnetic suit, what frequencies can they use to switch things on and off? And what devices are they building? What is happening inside us with the nanotech? Look at some of the work of Sophia Smallstorm. Got to give her a plug. She does great work. You know, her work on STEM, she's very avant-garde. She's a very, very open-minded, independent thinker. And some of her work on chemtrails is outstanding. It really is. So this is all happening, folks. This is what they're doing. And we're heading to a very dark place. We really are. You know, the human race is being affected by what they eat. And they really keep us in a bad situation. Yeah, that's kind of the way we've gone. But the Department of Neuroscience as well at Cambridge is who's developing all this stuff, right? The embryos were created using genetically engineered stem cells, okay? It's all the genetically engineered stuff, all GM. And this is where they're going. I saw this at the airport, the latest National Geographic. But I've actually photographed this in my friend's place, but it's there, it's at the airport. There you go, they're promoting the hell out of this, folks, this next human, the next human. Great little reviving things up there, revealing things on the top there. Climate facts at the top there, of course, so not the fake news, folks, the facts, right? Alaska artifacts, okay, what's going on there? I want people's attention on Alaska and surviving ISIS. Okay, surviving ISIS. So they're getting us ready for Trump to go in and bomb Syria. Just in the latest National Geographic, you know. You are? Yeah, the ape. You notice the ape, you've got two eyes on the ape. And everything else has got one eye, you notice that? Two eyes, the ape's just looking around the corner going, what the fuck are you doing, you know? You know? Yeah, but yeah, the ape's got two eyes, yeah. But they're really pushing it beyond human. This is some of the articles in the magazine I was looking through it. Technology versus natural selection. Okay? Do it yourself, evolution. This is the latest National Geographic. You can go and buy this. Get informed, folks. We're going there. This is your new future. You're going to love this shit. Yeah, it's great stuff, isn't it? You know, science fiction becomes reality. Yeah, great stuff, huh? Like this, when I met Cyborg Neil Harbison in Barcelona, he looked like any local hipster except for the black antenna arching impressively from the back of his skull over his mop blonde of hair. Impressively. Wasn't like a fucking freak out that this guy had an antenna. It was impressively arching over his blonde, like I might want to get one of those, you know? Yeah, let's promote the shit out of this, you know? Gee, I can have my antenna. I can become a Cyborg Max. This will be very cool. I won't even need my mobile phone anymore, you know? What a great stuff, you know? So yeah, this is what they're doing, you know? And here's a doctor that's also saying now, doctor speaks out, babies being prepared for AI and transhumanism through vaccines and medicine. Now, I said this in my film in 2012, I said that. Here it is. It's happening. They're creating new blanks. New blanks they can create in the lab that have no genetic code of anybody who came before them, who will just do what they're told. And they can grow them to be what they want. You want your worker race, you want your scientist race, you want your big drone police guys, you want your thinkers, who think the way we want, of course, the left brain thinkers. You know, so they can create the humans that they want. It's all there in the lab. They don't need parents, but they've got to create a situation where it's becoming very difficult for people to have children. So I need help from the doctor, please. So they just create it all. They just create this situation. So it's all Hegelian dialectic, folks. That's what they're doing. You think this is going to change anything? Really? Because this is what's going on with all the battling that's going on and Trump battling there to try to help the people and all this. They're still spraying the fucking skies. The GM food's still out there. They're bombing Syria. The AI grid's rolling forward in leaps and bounds. Nothing is changing. Nothing is changing at all. Nothing is changing. And Pizzagate. Pizzagate. Pizzagate, Pizzagate. There's a video clip that came out about 2 weeks ago on YouTube that said, "Is Donald Trump a time traveller?" Anyone see that clip? Anyone see that clip? You know why that clip is titled that way? Because it's an interview that Donald Trump did in late 2016 where he mentioned Pizzagate. He mentioned Pizzagate. Pizzagate, the term Pizzagate was coined in what, January 2017? January or February? I think it was late January 2017 was when we first started hearing the term Pizzagate. But there's an interview that Trump did in I think it's October or September or somewhere late in the year, might be November, 2016. And he mentioned Pizzagate. This is 2 or 3 months, easy 3 months before Pizzagate was ever heard, before the Podesta email leak and any of that stuff. It was before that. And so there's this, is Donald Trump a time traveller? No, he's not a time traveller. It just shows that the term Pizzagate was already coined. Way back then, they already knew. The release of the Podesta emails was perfectly timed to interfere with Hillary Clinton's election and to legitimise the Trump presidency. Then the whole Pizzagate focus on the pizza store to create the whole fake news meme to shift attention away from the global trafficking of children which is happening in war zones. I put out a show saying, Pizzagate, watch the Cyrus backspecs, watch the misdirection. Stop focusing on the pizza store. This is just going to be seen as an attack against small business due to internet conspiracy theorists. And that's what they did. They did that, I think, the next day after I released that show. The guy went in there with a gunman into the pizza store and shot the lock. Oh, fuck off, shot the lock. Are you kidding? Shot the lock. Was this going to open the door? No, you don't go into a pizza store and shoot the lock. You'd go in there and you put a gun to the guy's head and say, open the fucking door. You know, you don't shoot the lock. That's not real. The whole thing was designed to create the fake news meme, but the point is Donald Trump knew about it. In late 2016, he's a player. That proves he's a player. The fact that he mentioned that in an interview, he's not a time traveler, he's a player. This is all scripted. The whole thing has been scripted. And now you've got Alex Jones out there with this guy, oh, we were getting all 3,000 pedophiles. And this guy, he did this. I actually watched the whole 18 minutes of this mind-numbing shit that he had on there with this red-headed guy going, yes, we're going after the big ones and we're doing this and fundraiser, 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 fundraiser. It was just a big infomercial. He didn't say anything. Oh, yeah, we're going after the big ones. Well, who are they? Name them. Are they DynCorp? Is it Hillary Clinton? Is it what's going on in Haiti? Is it any of the stuff that you're talking about? Is it any of the real stuff? Yeah, go on Haiti, yeah, because Haiti is where it all happens, folks. Even what they do in Iraq, what they do in Somalia, what they do in Libya, what they do in Syria, all of this is shipped over to Haiti. That's why they built the port there. They built the port there, they take them in, and they take them into the no-go zone that's controlled by UN workers, and they harvest all their organs. That's what Haiti is. Haiti is a massive organ harvesting and chemical and vaccine and disease testing centre. They have got the people in Haiti and they are brutalising them and using them as guinea pigs for all of their vaccines and all their testing, all their genetic engineering. It all goes on in Haiti and it's all run by Piggery Clinton. That's who's running the whole fucking thing. Why is this woman not in jail? Why is Donald Trump posturing against anything that he's doing when all of this is in full view, all of the evidence is in the public domain? Why is none of this being addressed? Yeah, well, you know, he's not addressing any of the real issues. And the thing is, he's got the money to actually do it if he wanted to. He has. But even if he did, you know, with what's going on, this is the future that they're creating, folks. And it's still going forward in leaps and bounds. Yeah, we're just faced with heaps of shit. You know, mankind against the machine, that's what it is. But the point is that even if he's going to do the right thing, even if he is, what are you going to do? How's he going to lead you to safety? I'm just going to sit down for a minute. How's he going to do any of that? Like, you know, it doesn't matter what comes along. It doesn't matter if the whole Bitcoin thing takes off. It doesn't matter if we create a sustainable community, sustainable societies, like permaculture, all this sort of stuff. It would be great if we did. It doesn't matter if the Zeitgeist movement or the Venus Project or whatever. It doesn't matter what future comes along. It doesn't matter if Trump goes and arrests all these people and improves the tax system and does all this stuff. If people haven't changed what's in here, if they refuse to respect each other and they don't put down all their stuff with each other and they don't stop competing with each other, then we just end up back where we are. Everybody's got their idea of what freedom looks like, but they're all fighting over it. I think this, I think that. Allow people to have other ideas. The people who run the system, who control us, they agree to disagree. They have different ideas about all sorts of stuff. They have different religious beliefs, different races, different this, different whatever. They don't care, but they're totally focused on achieving total human lockdown, total human slavery, total control of everybody and everything and every blade of grass and every rock and every drop of water. That's what they want. And they don't care if anyone thinks differently about it. They just have that focus. But we have all these rabbit holes we go down and we think that I've got this rabbit hole. I've looked into the Holocaust. I've looked into Pizzagate. I've looked into the chemtrails. I've looked into whatever it is. And okay, this is the one. This is what, and everyone's got to get my focus and then jump in my rabbit hole. And if you don't, you're the enemy. It's ridiculous, folks. All of these things are the same thing. They're the same issue. All of them. All of them. They're all the same issue. And we've got to bring it all together. We've got to have common focus. We really do, because what we need is emancipation from slavery. And it doesn't matter what anybody brings along. It doesn't matter what system they give you. If you continue to place economics over people and you continue to profit from people, you continue to do the wrong thing in order for personal gain, we've already lost. We're going to end up right back where we started. If we were to do the right thing in what we do, change our heart space, do the right thing. And by the way, if you think there's a legal way to do it, this is the only legal way. There's only one legal way in this legal system. If you think law is real, anybody here think law is real? Great show of hands, folks. Great show of hands, not one. That's great, because I don't think law is real either. But if you do think law is real, this issue. I say it all the time. If you've got problems in your community with your politicians, if they're enacting legislation you don't like, what makes the legislation valid? Because I guarantee, especially in America here, all politicians have to sign the AIPAC Treaty. The AIPAC Treaty provides funding to Israel and support for Israel. Israel is currently in breach of the Fourth Geneva Convention by the fact that Gaza Strip exists. Doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or Palestinian, pro, whatever. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what race you support. Doesn't matter what side you're on. If you believe law is real, then there is an open breach of the Fourth Geneva Convention happening right now, supported by tens of thousands of politicians all around the world who can be arrested right now, and every single piece of legislation they wrote can be rendered invalid, and that can be done under their own law. So if you believe law is real, have a look at that. There's your answer. That's why they're decimating it so much. And if you're a Christian, hey, Jesus was a Palestinian. He was born in Galilee. He was a Palestinian Jew. That's what he was, because there is no Jewish race. It's a religion. That's the way it is. And this is the other way. This is the other way. To embrace the warrior spirit, to come into your heart. The warrior is not a violent person. The warrior stands in integrity. The warrior respects people. Just respect each other. That's all you have to do. If we change what's in our heart, and we do the right thing in all that we do, we refuse to comply with anything that is doing the wrong thing. And order followers stop following orders that are telling them to go and kill people. Listen to what Marx says. Absolutely. Stop following orders. Stop doing this shit, If we change what's in our heart and we do the right thing by all that we do, we don't actually have to do anything else. The whole system has to change around us organically. We don't need to create a new system. See, everyone wants, if you don't like this system, well, what's the plan? Give me a step-by-step instruction to get to freedom. How can I do that? Because if you haven't changed what's in your heart, then there is no path to freedom for you. That's the way it is. If you start living in a gift-based culture and giving to people, but not allowing yourself to be taken from, just give. You know, I believe that there's one law to all of creation, which is unconditional love and service to creation. You are part of creation, okay? So you don't serve yourself at the expense of others, but you don't serve others at the expense of yourself. You've got to love yourself as much as you love other people. If you don't do that, you'll never get anywhere. You can't deplete yourself to serve others because that is not serving creation. It is not. You've got to put yourself on equal par with everyone. Love yourself, respect yourself, but do it with other people as well. Realize that we're all in this together. I really believe that there's one consciousness here. There's just one of us here, experience ourselves through all these different billions of perspectives. You know, my consciousness isn't local to my body. It's here in the field. And my body's tuned to a frequency that downloads that frequency that I experience as Max. And you experience as Vanessa. And you experience as Anthony. It's the same consciousness. That's why I finish every radio show with In Lakesh. I am another yourself. We are all each other. And if we can live our life that way, the world changes around us. It really does. And if we don't do that, it doesn't matter what else we do. It doesn't matter. No one can come along and lead you to freedom if you cannot lead yourself. And there's no leaders in any of this either. I'm not a leader. I'm just a guy like you. I'm a fuck up. I'm a dope smoking, guitar playing. I live in a shed, you know? I'm a social misfit. You know, I'm a social misfit. I'm nobody special, and that's the point. You don't have to be somebody to make a difference. I've reached hundreds of thousands of people just by talking and putting out YouTube clips and doing radio shows and making films. Anybody can do it. Anybody can do it. I'm nobody special at all. Everybody can do that. Everybody can make a difference. So believe in yourself and respect yourself because that's the way out. It really is. And there is no other way out. There really is no other way out. You've got to look at the shadow. Look at the dark stuff. It's there. But you've got to realize the shadow exists in yourself. That's why I do ayahuasca and stuff, to find that really dark, horrible shit you don't want to look at because it's there. And when you see it's in you, it's in there. You have the choice to go really wrong. And I guarantee I could get any one of you in this room. I could get you and I could corner you and I could point and poke you and brutalise you to the point that you would want to rip my fucking head off, and you would do it and you would enjoy it. That's that dark stuff. And when you see that's in you, then you understand that that's what they are in. That's what those people that we're trying to emancipate ourselves from are in. They're in that energy. And for those people, it's a form of bliss. You know, it's the dark bliss. So that's what you're dealing with. That's why you can't reason with these people. They get appeal to their moral character. They don't fucking have one. They have no morals. They have no integrity. You know, but we embrace that in ourselves. We can create any future we want. We really can. But we've got to see that in ourselves. We've got to, respect other people. That's how we get out of this mess, folks. That's how we do it. That slide always seems to find its way in. I don't know how. I try to leave it out, but it always seems to find its way in. But that's pretty well all I've got to say to you, folks. Thank you for coming to the presentation today. It's been a great honour to speak to you.
Max Igan, ladies and gentlemen.